Hello, namaste, vanakkam. Language debate has started in this country once again. How do we respond to this debate? That's what I'm going to talk to you about. You may be from the south, you may be from the north. You may be Hindi speaker, you may be Bengali speaker, Tamil speaker, or speaker of a language not recognized in the constitution. How do we sensibly, carefully, responsibly think about this question, irrespective of our origins, is what I'm going to talk about. This is very critical question for the times to come. I'll start with the context of the debate that has currently started with Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Thiru M.K. Stalin taking a position. I had some responses to that. I'll talk about that. But I'll not stay too much with the context because these things keep changing. In the last 24 hours, people have started saying that I'm Hindi chauvinist, Hindi supremacist. A month ago, I had said something about the role of governor in Tamil Nadu. Then the same people were lauding me. Now I'm Hindi supremacist. We always knew this fellow is finally Hindi wala. Tomorrow I write something about delimitation. Well, you might know, they might change their mind. These things keep happening. But let's not get swayed about it. Let's not focus on these changing reactions. Let's focus on the big picture. So the context. The central government stopped the grant of Tamil Nadu government, educational grant, on the ground that Tamil Nadu government is not accepting a formula, the three-language formula given in the national education policy. The Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu protested. He said, we will stick to two-language policy. We will not do three-language policy. And he said, this is an indirect attempt at Hindi imposition on us. So I wrote an article last week in the Indian Express saying that Tamil Nadu Chief Minister is absolutely justified in saying central government grants cannot be stopped. He's also right to say no language can be imposed on us. But he needn't oppose three-language formula. Actually, he can come up with a smart solution. He can say, well, I'll teach Hindi, provided North Indian states are willing to teach Tamil. Or he could say that under the present system, we can do Tamil, Kannada, Telugu in some areas, and English. He needn't use Hindi at all. So I said, multilingualism is key to our country, and three-language formula is a very decent way of serving that multilingualism. Let's respect and nurture that. 2 days later, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Thiru Stalin tweeted something, which I thought was not right, because here he was not only opposing Hindi imposition, he was opposing Hindi as a language. And he says, Hindi has gobbled up, Hindi has eaten so many languages in our country. I didn't think it was in great taste. So I responded to him to say there was a friendly disagreement. And I said, I did not expect, I'll just read out the tweet. It's 176 words. And I really wish someone had read these 176 words. I really sometimes feel people don't even read a short text like this. So I said, disappointed to read this from a senior leader like you, Shri M.K. Stalin. I'm with you and people of Tamil Nadu in opposing the partisan governor, withholding of central grants, and imposition of any language policy. So I said, I'm with you on all these things. But opposition to central government must not become opposition to Hindi, not to Hindi as a language. You can oppose Hindi imposition, but not the language itself. This statement is poor in taste as it attacks a language, not just its jealous advocates. It's weak on facts. All modern Indian languages have been standardized by subsuming several neighboring languages, relegating them to the level of dialect. Arguing for recognition of all these languages is right. But blaming only Hindi for swallowing other languages is wrong, I said. And it's poor politics. Very few speakers of these sub-languages of Hindi are going to love you for this statement. Hindi versus Tamil is not the real battle. Bhashas, including Tamil and Hindi, versus the hegemony of English is the real linguistic apartheid in India. And I concluded by saying, you are an inheritor of a great and one of the oldest language, much older than Hindi, hoping for a final linguistic sensitivity and sensibility from you. It's long. I later felt that maybe on Twitter people don't read something as long as that. It was less than 200 words, but even that looks like too much. So what I'm saying is that this disagreement is a friendly disagreement. It begins with three fundamental agreements. Number one, that the manner in which central government is relating to Tamil Nadu government is unacceptable. The role of Mr. Ravi, the governor of Tamil Nadu, is completely partisan. In fact, I had tweeted about it. I had done a video on this to say Mr. Ravi must go. This is unacceptable in any federal country, what they are doing. So I'm entirely with Tamil Nadu government and the people of Tamil Nadu for this. Two, I said that central government cannot take away, cannot withhold grants. In fact, that is one of the conclusions of my Indian Express article, that you cannot withhold the grant. And thirdly, as you just read, I had said, I'm in favor of opposing any imposition of any language. It should be consensus based. And that's again something that I'm not saying for the first time. This has been a position that I've held. It comes from an ideological position that I come from, that languages cannot be imposed. And any imposition must be resisted. And hence the title of today's talk, Resist Imposition of Hindi and Hegemony of English. I'll come to that. But yes, any imposition of anything, even something that may be good, should be resisted. I completely agree. Although in the case of Hindi, it's a more complicated thing, whether it's good or not, etc. We can discuss that. But yes, opposed to imposition. Having made these fundamental agreements, I had expressed disagreement with the views of Thiru Stalin on the ground that it's not a good idea for any chief minister to run down any other language. Tomorrow, if chief ministers from North Indian states give statement running down Tamil or Telugu or anything of that kind, which happens once in a while, it's not acceptable. So I thought the tone was wrong. Two, I think factually to say that Hindi has swallowed these many languages gives you a sense as if Hindi is the only language that's doing it. Now, Mr. Stalin mentions a series of languages which today are called dialects of Hindi. He is absolutely right to say that these are and were languages. Of course, Bhojpuri, Bundelkhandi, Chhattisgarhi, Marwadi, these are languages. I would not call them merely dialects. But to say that Hindi has swallowed them and to say that only Hindi has done that is not correct, because this is exactly how all the modern languages have come up. This is true of Bengali. This is true of today's Punjabi. This is true of the languages that I have some information on. What the modern standardized languages of the kind that we have today all have come up by subsuming a number of what were then called dialects. And one standardized language has been evolved from that. Bengali was written in 3 different scripts. In fact, it was written in what is today's Bengali, which is drawn from Maithili. It was written in Kathi. It was also written in Arabic. But today we have one standardized Bengali. Many ways of speaking and writing are standardized for purposes of print media, for purposes of modern education. This has happened to all languages, not just Hindi. So to single out Hindi and to say it has swallowed is not historically correct. And finally, I thought it puts a very false binary. And that is the fundamental difference that I have. And that's something I really would like all of you to consider. The real language battle in this country is not Hindi versus Tamil or Hindi versus non-Hindi languages. This is a false opposition. We have to move to a wider, bigger picture, which is Bhasha versus English. This is not my expression. I draw it from U.R. Anantamurthy, one of the celebrated Kannada writers and thinkers and intellectuals of this country. That's the perspective in which I had said what I said. But anyway, the larger question of how should we respond to the language issue? What should be the correct language policy? First thing first, which languages should a child be taught in school? On that, there is complete consensus among all experts in the world. People who work on education, who work on language, who work on brain development. Everyone agrees that a child must be given early primary education in the language closest to his or her hometown. Whichever language is spoken at home should be the language of school. So, if the home tongue is Bhojpuri, Maithili, Marwadi, Chhattisgarhi, the school language should be that, not even the standard modern language of the eighth schedule. It should actually be what are called dialects. These regional languages should be, or sub languages, or whatever name you want to give them. One should normally call them just languages. These are, or technically, these are the non scheduled languages. They should be primary education. Along with that, a child should be introduced to other languages. Please remember, a child can easily learn up to 3, 4, 5 languages. And actually, if you learn more languages, it strengthens your primary and secondary language. It doesn't take away. More languages is better news for child. That's what all the experts agree. So that should be the foundation. Start with mother tongue, build other languages, on which you can have go transit. In the middle school, you can transit to the standardized language. So for example, you start with Marwadi, then by middle school, that child goes to standard language connected to Marwadi, which is Hindi. And then similarly, you introduce them to English, and gradually you build up their linguistic corpus. That's what all the experts say and agree upon. What should be the role of English here? Because there's a lot of debate and controversy on that as well. Again, every Indian child should have access to English language, because English language is one of the best window available to us to read world literature, to get knowledge on all kinds of things. You can't depend only on translation. So it's a good idea. Every child should learn it. However, there is absolutely no need to make English into a medium of instruction. This is where we are making the biggest mistake, because English medium education is not about learning English language. You can learn English language without learn it reasonably well. I can tell you in my case, it's only in class 6 that I learned the English alphabets. You can learn English language reasonably well for your needs without learning history, geography, mathematics through English medium. You need to learn other languages. We are a multilingual country. Every child should learn other Indian languages. I, for example, studied Punjabi in my school. If you are studying in Bihar, you should learn Bengali. So a language other than your own mother tongue is what you should learn. This was the spirit of the three-language formula. Three-language formula, which is not something which has come up right recently. It's a very old thing that began with the Higher Education Committee headed by Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. So 1948-49 is the three-language formula origin. Later on, in the mid-60s, when there was a serious conflict on the issue of language, The constitution said after 15 years, Hindi should become the official language. When that deadline came, there was serious protest, especially in South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu. 70 people died. After that, there was a reconciliation. All the chief ministers sat in 1968 and they worked out a compromise. The compromise was all right, every child in this country will learn three languages. One is their own mother tongue, second is Hindi, third is English. But if the mother tongue is Hindi, then they would learn another Indian language, preferably a South Indian language. This is what the formula said. Unfortunately, the formula was never implemented sincerely. And the biggest sabotaging of the formula took place in North India. Because while many states of South India started teaching Hindi, states of North India never showed any seriousness about teaching a language other than Hindi. And unfortunately, they started using Sanskrit as a shield, not in order to teach classical learning or not in order to actually teach Sanskrit language. This just became an easy bypass route through which you would not have to teach any South Indian language. Naturally, people in South India feel cheated. Or most other non-Hindi speakers feel cheated. I have to learn your language. You don't learn my language. What kind of national unity is this? What kind of a formula is this? They seem to be saying. And that's perfectly right. So, three language formulas is a good recipe, a recipe that has unfortunately never been implemented in its true spirit. The National Education Policy of 2020 repeats the three language formula. As a matter of fact, they dilute it. For the first time, the three language formula of the NEP 2020 does not mention Hindi. It simply says any three languages, of which two should be languages native to India. That's where the debate stands. So, first, we have seen mother tongue education, and as far as possible, medium of instruction should be the language closest to the child's home language, and the standardized languages like Hindi, Oriya, Tamil, etc., should be used for education and higher education after primary sector. What about linked language? That's a question posed again and again. If you look at our civilization and history, we have never had one linked language. It's only for a very limited official reasons that some language has been used at one point or the other. We don't need one linked language. We do not need to put everyone through one language. That's not necessary. A recent study said 87% Indians in their life never go beyond their own district. Well, if that is the case, why do we need to force everyone onto languages? Yes, some of them will go out. They need to pick one language. Some of them will go abroad. They need to even improve their English language. But we don't need to impose it on every single child. Now, what about Hindi? That's a tricky question that is posed every time. And people assume that anyone who's opposing the domination of English must be a Hindi wala, must be a Hindi supremacist. I don't know how to respond to such simple things. All I can do is to quote from an article that I had written. This is something I wrote a few years ago because what I can say about Hindi is I have repeatedly said that Hindi Divas must be stopped, that we must remember there is nothing called a national language of India. We don't have it. We don't need it. And the pretense that Hindi is the national language should just stop. Hindi walas need to be very sensitive and careful. I wrote this about Hindi, and I think on this respect, my opinions have not changed. I'll just verbatim read out what I think I wrote 5 years ago. Hindi has no special virtue or claim to privilege over other Indian languages. If anything, Hindi is younger and therefore relatively poorer than much older languages like Tamil and Kannada. We forget that Hindi what the Hindi that we recognize today is less than 200-year old. And languages like Tamil are more than 2000-year old. So Hindi can play a special role by acting as a bridge that connects some languages, though not all. It has helped connect Arunachali tribes. But I cannot imagine that Malayalis and Tamils would need Hindi to speak to each other. So Hindi as a bridge for everything doesn't work. In some cases, it does. But Hindi has to earn this trust of other language speakers. It cannot demand it. This whole idea that if you are Indian, you have to be Hindi, there's absolutely no basis for that. The only way Hindi can do so is by becoming impure, borrowing generously from other Indian and non-Indian languages. To borrow a metaphor from Vinoba Bhave, Hindi cannot remain pure like a river. It must expand like an ocean, which is to say, not subsume others, but to learn from others. That's what Vinoba is saying. In any case, this must be left to the society, media, and market. Any official imposition of Hindi is against the spirit of our nationalism and is, in fact, counterproductive. So, this whole business of government promoting Hindi, I've repeatedly said this should just stop. Hindi is spreading somewhat due to some market needs. Government promotion of Hindi has only damaged Hindi, has only, A, because they produce a Hindi which no one can read and understand. B, it produced deep resentment. After my article, I've received several messages from people describing their experience. When I came to Delhi, people said I'm a Madrasi. They forced me to speak this language. I served in a bank. People forced me to use Hindi. This kind of imposition doesn't help the country at all. This should cease. We don't need that. We don't need this official promotion of Hindi. If people want to watch movies of Mumbai and if they find Hindi useful for that, good. If some people find Hindi cricket commentary useful, good. If not, okay. If people in Mumbai want to watch Tamil cinema, they want to learn Tamil, good. Otherwise, not. So leave it to society, leave it to economy. Do not impose it. That, to my mind, is the way out of the present situation. The big thing that no one talks about, and that's my real fear, the larger issue is not Hindi versus Tamil. The larger issue is the dominance of English. When friends in Tamil Nadu say Hindi is being imposed on us, I understand what they are saying. But tell me, is there really, do you see any signboard saying learn Hindi in 7 days? You don't. But everywhere you see these signboards about English speaking course, English learning course. What we are witnessing is a gradual erosion of all our languages at the cost of English. And the English that we are giving our children is not the kind of English which will actually give them deep understanding of that language either. So we are giving up on our own languages. We are not quite understanding, except in some cases, we are not quite able to handle English. And in any case, the experience all over the world tells you that the only way to become truly modern is not to imitate anyone. Stand on your own ground and look to the sky. This is what made Europe a modern society. We will not become modern by imitating Europe, not by picking their language, not by imitating their language. We'll become modern when we stand on our ground. And that is the ground of multilingualism. That is the ground of our culture and civilization. And then looking up to future challenges, challenges for which our culture, history, tradition never prepared us. That is what we need to do. That is what is going to make us modern. So, resist imposition of Hindi. I'm with you on that. Also resist the hegemony of English. That, to my mind, would be a good way to start a serious thinking on the question of language. Thank you.